A significant part of building better relationships is a commitment to elimination. You have to eliminate certain people from your relationship world, and that's just as important as including certain people in your relationship world. I want to take you to some passages in the Bible that help us to understand the importance of excluding or eliminating certain people from our lives. For the last several weeks, we've been looking at 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse number 1. I'm going to bring you back to that today, and we'll look at just a few more verses because I want you to see what the Apostle Paul says about this. And he says, mark this. You're familiar with this passage. We've been looking at it. There will be what kind of times? Terrible times when? In the last days. So we've talked a lot about this over the last several weeks. We are living in the last days. I think I've made that point very clear. The last days began when Jesus ascended back to heaven. The last days have continued for 2,000 years since that time, and we're moving even further toward the last of the last days, perhaps even the last of the last days. We don't know when Jesus is coming back again, but we are living in the last days. Our world is not going to continue forever. And the Bible says, Paul says, mark this, be aware of this. There are going to be some terrible times when in the last days. So we can expect perilous, terrible, violent, fierce, demonic times in the last days. Now, here's something that I'd never quite noticed before in studying this passage. I want you to notice the very next word after Paul says, mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. What is the next word that he brings into his paragraph? People. Isn't that interesting? He doesn't say there will be terrible times in the last days. Watch out for wars and rumors of wars, and be careful about earthquakes and all these terrible things and climate change and X, Y, and Z. He says, no, in the last days there are going to be terrible times, and I want you to know that it has to do with people. What about these people? It says people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Please read the last sentence with me. Have nothing to do with such people. The original Greek here for have nothing to do is very, very strong. It emphasizes the idea of turning away completely from them, to avoid these kind of people. Paul says in the last days, you're going to be surrounded with people that you don't need to include in your life.